Welcome to Let's Thrive Postpartum.
Welcome back to Let's Thrive Postpartum. I'm Kelly.
And I'm Ashley.
And we are so excited to have you back today. We have a really great conversation with Haley Hoover.
So Haley is the founder of Winnie and Lu. As a married mom of 2 boys, she has always had a strong maternal instinct. From babysitting at a young age to working as a professional nanny through college and beyond, everyone expected motherhood to come naturally to her. However, after the arrival of her first child, it was far from what she had envisioned, leading to some unexpected challenges contributing to postpartum anxiety. Despite her desire for a third baby, the physical and mental toll of postpartum recovery made it impossible. Leveraging her background in healthcare business, Haley founded Winnie and Lu, a luxury, sustainable baby line. This creative venture became a vital outlet, allowing her to channel her love and growth into building something meaningful. Through this journey, she overcame her postpartum struggles and feels that she has rediscovered her true self.
Being on this podcast, Ashley and I have had the privilege of talking to so many courageous mothers who are survivors who have gone through postpartum depression and anxiety. And Haley is one of those inspiring women. You are really going to be empowered by her story. I think you will hear a lot of some of yourself if you're struggling in her story, and also what she has now is using from that experience to help other women and kind of change the world is really, really inspiring. We can't wait for you to meet Haley. Haley, welcome to Let's Thrive Postpartum. We are so excited to talk with you today, to hear your mom's story. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Well, Haley, let's just jump in. So tell us a little bit kind of about you and what it was like to be pregnant and kind of go down this childbirth experience.
Sure. So I have 2 boys, and I always wanted to be a mom. I grew up, I started babysitting when I was 11, and that very quickly rolled into me becoming a professional nanny all the way through college and a little bit after. I had been told my entire life that I had this like great, wonderful maternal instinct. And so I was like, great, I'm going to be this killer mom. And I had a little bit of difficulty getting pregnant the first time, but that was just more a matter of travel and schedules that I'm very fortunate we were able to take care of things naturally. But my first pregnancy was incredible. I felt great. I had, the usual mild stuff of pregnancy, but I felt good. I was excited. I had a healthy pregnancy. And then right at the end there, my blood pressure started to rise a little bit, and it wasn't like it was high for me, but not like overwhelmingly high. And so around about 37 weeks of pregnancy, I had 3 episodes of false labor, and I should include that I was trying to have a natural birth. So I had a doula I had been working with my entire pregnancy, and I am very much a control freak and like to be in charge of things. And so I should have known when I didn't get pregnant that first month that I was never going to be in control of this situation. But I thought for sure, I was like, oh, 37 weeks, this baby's coming. I am going to have this beautiful natural birth. I'm going to be up walking around within an hour. I'm going to feel great. I did not have that child until almost 42 weeks. And I went in for induction, which I was not exactly thrilled about, but was okay with. I went in for the induction, and they poked me a million times to get that IV started. And then they went to go start the actual induction, and they were like, something feels not right. And so they went and got the ultrasound, and my baby had flipped back breech the day before my induction at almost 42 weeks. So they sent me home, and they were like, we can try to flip him in the OR tomorrow if you want to try to go for that natural birth. But I have a history in OBGYN practice. And so I knew that the age of my placenta and where it was located in my pregnancy, that maybe that version wasn't going to be the safest thing. So I resigned to having the C-section, and I thought that that was going to be it. I was like, okay, this is the medical intervention. It's fine. We have a great, healthy baby. He was ready to breastfeed right away and everything was great. Well, 5 days after I was discharged I was discharged 5 days after I had him, and I was home for about 8 hours. And then I was like, something is wrong. And it turned out that I had postpartum preeclampsia, and they
Mhm.
didn't expect it. They didn't know that it was going to happen. It's incredibly rare. And one thing I think that's important to note is that I'm very in tune to my body. And especially from my history of working in the OB clinic, I knew warning signs to look out for. And I called my doctor and told her what was going on. And the nurse on the phone was like, it's just new mom jitters and anxiety. Just lay down and get some sleep. And I refused to take that response. And I said, with all due respect, I would like you to call labor and delivery and tell them that I'm on my way. And I'm so glad that I did, because even though my blood pressure wasn't elevated to an alarming risk, my liver enzymes were through the roof and I was on my way to having a very catastrophic liver situation take place. So I ended up being readmitted and put on magnesium drip and was in the hospital for another 3 days. So I went from having this dream of having a
Yeah.
uncomplicated natural birth to having this like incredibly high and low roller coaster, very medically involved delivery and postpartum. So I think a part of my postpartum depression and anxiety started with that lack of control.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And I think that I was just kind of angry. I'm like, I was built to do this. I was made on this earth to be a mom, and I've been told this my whole life, and I couldn't bring this child in the way that I had anticipated. And then I like very well could have had a bad outcome had I not listened to what my intuition was telling me. So that was my first baby.
Well, great job of knowing signs, knowing yourself,
Yeah.
and being your own biggest advocate. I mean, we've heard that
Thank
from
you.
so many moms. Like,
Yep.
great job of saying, there's something wrong and I need you to pay attention to me. Can I
Yeah.
ask, what was it like when you had to go back to the hospital for 3 days? Did your child come with you? What was that, a separation thing? What was that part like for you?
So I am very fortunate. My husband is a hospital administrator, and the hospital where I delivered my first baby, the women's department reported to him. So when I was discharged home, the first time, my child was also discharged. And so technically, you're not able to bring them back to the hospital as a patient. So you have to have somebody with you. Thankfully, this was pre COVID. And so I was able to have my husband stay with me. And at the same time, my mom and sister in law came and were in town too. So we had a rotation of folks that were able to be with me and allow me to have my child with me the whole time. But I was readmitted the second child, and that was 2021. And I had to really fight to be able to bring in my child. I'm like, I am not in a good headspace. I had just seen so when I had my second pregnancy, I just jump right into that. I was working a very stressful job. I was managing the OBGYN practice. I had a toddler at home. My husband was a hospital administrator, and he was working all the crazy stuff at the hospital during COVID. And that child, we got pregnant right after I stopped breastfeeding. So funny how that works. Again, no control
Mhm.
over when these babies want to, make decisions for your life.
Yeah.
But I had a great pregnancy, but towards the last 2 months of it, I ended up having like chest pain and tachycardia from just the overall stress of like managing this healthcare practice during COVID and having a toddler and just the stress on my body of being pregnant. So I got put on modified bed rest around 34 weeks. And then that whole time they're saying we could take your baby any day. So your toddler needs to stay home from preschool because of COVID. Because my husband and I were both essential workers. Our son was the only one of like 7 kids that was still going to this school because everybody else that was there was an essential worker. So we're all being
Mhm.
exposed to COVID.
Yeah.
They wouldn't let my child go to preschool anymore until I had the baby. Then the pediatrician wouldn't let him go back to preschool until 30 days
Okay.
because of germs to the baby. So bed rest, toddler, stressful job. There was a lot of things like leading up, but super excited about this pregnancy, super excited about having a second child. And I was hopeful for a VBAC, so vaginal birth after a C-section. I was a perfect candidate for it. And just my body just never wanted to go into labor. So we proceeded with the C-section. I was in a much better headspace after that. And then he was born and they were like, his glucose levels dropped. I got to hold him for like 1 second and then they rushed him off to transition nursery. And I was a mess.
Mhm.
And so there's all these little contributing things that I think played into the overall lead up to my postpartum depression and anxiety. I had him, everything was great. Got to leave the hospital 2 days earlier than I did on that first delivery. Was so excited to see my older son. Got to see him for a couple hours, and then my body started doing the same things that it was doing after my first delivery. And so I called my OB and I let her know what was going on. And she was like, I'm really sorry, Haley, but you have to go to the hospital. And at that point, I was like, I can't handle this. And so thankfully, I was the manager of the OB practice that delivered me. And so they called and they were like, look, this is our person. Can you just please let her bring her baby? So both situations where I got readmitted, I had very good fortune just in the roles that my husband and I have. And it is something that I will advocate for people moving forward because you do need that support. You shouldn't be in there by yourself, regardless of what pandemic could potentially be going on. They need to be making accommodations. So, yeah, long-winded.
No, that is a great kind of walkthrough. Thank you for sharing all that. Can I ask? So you have mentioned that all of this was a lot of a lead up. You had a lot of stress, a lot of physical things going on. When did you really start to feel symptoms of postpartum anxiety and depression? What was that experience like for you?
So after my first child, we were 4 months. I was 4 months postpartum, and we ended up relocating out of state. And so, but it was exciting because we were moving closer to family. So I was really excited, but I didn't really realize how much the stress of that was contributing to some things I wasn't able to like completely heal. And so I think that that always just kind of kept me on edge. I did have very mild anxiety just generally before I had a baby. And I was on a very low dose of Prozac for probably 5 years before I got pregnant. And I weaned off of it over the course of 2 months. And that was really, really difficult. But it was important to me to try and just be unmedicated during my pregnancy and breastfeeding and all of that. And I regret doing that. And I think that it made my marriage tough for that 2 months that I was weaning off of it. It made me crazy. And I was on like a very low dose. I mean, it's just, I didn't realize how much my brain and my body needed just that little kick to help me get through the day to day.
Yeah.
And so I think that to lose so much control in my pregnancy and my delivery and all of that, and being a very type A person, I think that that was a big contributing factor. And then the moving and not being settled and all of that just kind of contributed. And it just started to build over time. And I started to feel a sense of paranoia. And I felt like there were people in my backyard, like looking through the windows. I felt like every time I would drive the car that we were going to get in a car accident. I had very like, and I'm a very positive person. I mean, for my entire life, I have always just seen the silver lining. My husband always says I look through the world with butterflies and rainbows glasses. But it was a really like, this is an unusual thought process. But I was like, I know
Mhm.
postpartum is real and that this is going to, I'll get through it. And I don't think I got through it. I think I just bogged myself down with stress and work and a toddler and managing family stuff and home stuff. And so when I very quickly got pregnant the second time, it was just like, okay, we are going through these motions. And then I think that not giving my body that time to heal and recover really made a difference. And I think that that kind of catapulted things on my second delivery, the combination of, wanting to have that vaginal delivery and not, that was okay. But having my child like not get to have that immediate skin to skin or like try to nurse right away, that really, I think, affected me. I don't think that people realize the importance of like the true science and nature behind that chemical bond. And I do think that that really affected things that made my second postpartum so much worse. I was so bogged down in I think I had postpartum anxiety with my first pregnancy. I think I had both depression and anxiety with my second, but I don't even know how to explain the headspace that I was in. I mean, I felt like I was out of my mind. And my OB was the one who, when I went in for my 6-week postpartum, she knew me so well, gratefully, but she was like, "You're not right at all. Like, this is not you. This is textbook. You need to stop trying to manage this on your own." I was taking supplements. I was trying to do all the stuff.
Yeah.
She was like, "You have tried hard enough. You do not need to be a martyr. It is not going to hurt your child to get back on your medication and breastfeed. Like, you cannot keep going like this." And I was so grateful. I mean, she saved me. She saved my marriage. She saved a relationship with my child. I mean, I was so desperate and didn't even know it.
Yeah.
It
Something
was,
that we hear from a lot of women, and even like my experience too, was like this build up to like not wanting to say something to the doctor, delaying and delaying and delaying. And then you finally do, or your doctor notices. And for them, sometimes they have this way of saying it of like, no, we're going to do this. This is safe. Here's your options. Just do it. And you're like, why did I make it seem like this was this like hugely difficult thing to do, to just like ask my doctor,
yeah,
And but there's so many doctors, they're like, yeah, no, we'll do this. We do this. And women, they're like, I finally said something, and then was like, oh my gosh, like it wasn't nearly as scary
yeah,
as with most things with anxiety. It wasn't nearly as scary as I had like built it up to be.
yeah. And I think that, I come from a long line of very strong women. The women in my life are so sturdy and so strong, and they're amazing and inspiring. And I do know that back 2 generations, even from having my own children, that my grandmother and my own mother had like we had similar delivery issues. We had similar kind of like mind processes after. I mean, I had a hard time because I think so many people say, like, you're going to have this baby and you feel like you're going to have this explosion of warmth and like you feel like you're going to just be floating on a cloud. And it's kind of like, I didn't find out what I was having with either child. So I was very caught off guard by both times, them both being boys, because I thought both times they were both girls. So I
Yeah.
think that like I always explain it to people. You pick a puppy, right? You know what breed you want. You know if you want a boy or a girl. You know what kind of
Mhm.
personality or markings you want. You want a baby, you get what you get.
Yeah.
And so I think that that kind of made me just a little bit crazy to have to like lose that control of
Well,
where
But
I'm
I'm
like,
also very impressed that you've said a couple times that you're a control freak. You like to control things, but you didn't find out what you're having. I couldn't do that. I had to know so I could plan. I'm very impressed that you kept that a surprise for yourself.
that was always what people said to me. They're like, "You're the last person on earth I thought would not find out what you're having." But I also I love to take risks.
yeah. What would you say to some other moms? It is fairly common that a lot of women that are like very successful, maybe a little more type A, used to these higher levels of control in their life, experiencing anxiety in general, but also especially like postpartum. What do you think? Like, what are some things you wish you had known or had just kind of maybe thought about or processed leading up to having a baby, which we now know you really have no control once that kid is here. And now they're here forever. You lose a whole lot of control in your life.
Oh, I was just traveling with mine for like 9 days and I had no control. No, they're great. No, I kind of piggybacking off of like having the strong women in my life. It was like, yeah, I felt that too. And I was like, you'll get over it. And it wasn't meant to be like tough it up. And I took it that way. It was meant to be like, this is not normal, but it's not unusual. And you will survive this and you will get through it. But what I heard in my head was like, this is something that you just need to plow through and power through. And I did that the first time. And then I very quickly got pregnant the second time. And I don't think that I ever had time to process that whole where I had been. I don't want to say let down because that sounds so ungrateful, but I think that like when you just are told your whole life you're meant to be a mom and then you have envisioned how you're going to bring your child into your life and how you're going to be as a parent and it doesn't turn out that way at all is kind of like shocking and you have to kind of get over it. And I don't think that I got over it the first time. And it took me a really long time to get over it the second time.
And I mean, it is a feeling of disappointment, though, right? And almost like grieving because it's something you can't go back and change, right?
Yeah.
Like it happened and it didn't happen the way you were hoping it would. And
I think
something so
grieving is the perfect word to use.
Yeah.
And I think we've talked a lot of times about when you have expectations, whether you've put them on yourself or society's told you this is how it should be. When those expectations aren't met, it really does bring along the grieving. It brings a lot of the anxiety because why am I not meeting my expectations? Somehow I'm failing, even if you're not. Like just going through that is something that I don't feel like we warn mothers enough about, right? When you're pregnant, this could happen. Let's talk about it because I think a lot of us have had it. We've talked to a lot of women. It's an additional stress and a different feel of like shame or failure that you personally can feel if some expectation isn't met, whether that expectation is true or not.
And that's exactly how I felt when I didn't get that like immediate burst of like firework feeling that like, oh my gosh, I can't like this. I can't imagine life without you. I'm like, I don't even know you. Like, this is crazy. And while I innately loved and cared and was concerned for my babies both times, I didn't really feel that like, oh my gosh, I cannot imagine walking this earth without you until they were both about 5 months old. And I think that that's important for me to put out there because I kept thinking something was wrong with me. And now I know I was depressed. I had very, like, so many things going on in my head that they were so new to me that I didn't even know I was going through it.
Yeah. And I mean, both depression and anxiety can have such a big impact on that bond and everything like that, whether it's out of fear or whether like with depression, you're just feeling really like disconnected. It's hard. It's hard to make those connections with anyone, when you're
Absolutely.
in those states. And it's really common too. And it's actually something whole separate sideline, but that contributes with like dads having like some of the paternal depression stuff is like
Yeah.
thing. And that is hard because again, we're always told, oh, you'll feel it. Oh, it'll be this. And then you're kind of like, well, I felt something. Not quite sure if it's what everybody says it's supposed to be. But.
Yeah, I just feel stressed out that now I like really like this thing and I need to keep it alive and I don't know what to do.
Yes. Well, Haley, can you tell us as you're going through this, you're in the anxiety, you're in the depression, what did recovery start looking like for you? When did you start feeling, okay, here's things that I'm doing. I'm starting to find my way back to me again?
So I think the biggest thing was exercise. And
Okay.
I've been all through my childhood and growing up, I had always been into sports and athletics. When I was in college, I probably worked out twice. But the exercise really helped me. I have a very active family. And it was important to me to be able to move and keep up with my family. And I was watching my 2-year-old at the time jump off of furniture and climb up staircases. And I was like, okay, I've got to like get back in shape. So I started doing the Peloton at home. And then I was like, I need to get out of the house a little bit more. So I started rowing at a local row studio, and I ended up loving it so much that I got certified to coach it. And so
Wow.
what I loved was that getting certified was the first time that I had challenged myself since before I got married. And I kind of forgot that no matter the fact that I got married and changed my name or that I had had two babies, I was still Haley. And I had kind of just like forgotten that I was a real person for 5 years.
Yeah.
And so the exercise kind of like dusted the cobwebs off, but then the coaching of it gave me confidence. I got to meet people all the time that would be new to the studio, and I got to help them and hear them talk about like celebrating their PR or celebrating like I didn't have to stop at all during this class for the first time. Like that gave me so much joy because for one, I've always been a caretaker and like, how can we boost people up? But I felt like when I became a wife and a mom that I was only doing that in the house and I didn't feel like I was getting my cup fully filled. And so the coaching really helped me kind of get into that mindset of like confidence and being able to just, kind of make a fool of myself again, which was like my MO for years. But I feel like once you become a parent, it's kind of like I can't mess anything up because everything affects my kids. So it's nice to be able to have that. And I think that the confidence of doing the rowing was also what kind of inspired me to start Winnie and Lu because it was hard. And I thought to myself, like, well, if I can do that, what else can I do? So I had already started when we moved this last time, I started a virtual assistant business supporting healthcare professionals. So I basically took the culmination of my career leading up to this point and do administrative operational stuff for doctors, etc. So I love it, but I was like, I feel like I have a little bit more to give. And so I just started thinking last summer, what do I want to do? And thinking about that time in my life where that was so hard with the postpartum stuff, the biggest headache I had was that bottle drying rack. I hated how ugly the bottle racks were, that they didn't hold a full day of bottles. I couldn't even think about putting my pump parts on it. I'd be up washing bottles and sterilizing stuff after work, and it'd be midnight. I'd be exhausted. I'd go to put that last piece on the rack and it would all tumble down.
Yes.
Just
We've been there.
Just tears and maybe a few colorful words. And so in that time last summer, I just thought, like, what can I do that is true to me that can give back to my children, the world, the community, whatever. There had to be some part of it that would make me feel good. If I was going to give more of my time to it, I had to have that feel good feeling in it. So I came up with this idea to kind of revolutionize baby products. Instead of having baby products that you use for that period of time and then toss it or donate it, you intentionally buy a Winnie and Lu piece that is made with long-lasting, durable quality products that are actually elegant and beautiful and luxury that you can leave out on your counter, out in your home, and then repurpose them for other uses after that baby stage.
I love it.
Me
Thanks.
too, and they're gorgeous. I saw
Thank
some of the
you.
pictures of what you have created, and they really are absolutely beautiful. It's much better than the things that we're seeing on our counter for a good solid 12 months because we had to have multiple because you're right, they did not work.
Thank you. Yeah, that was the thing. So my years of being a babysitter and a nanny, I got to use the Boone grass and the Oxo Tower and the Munchkin, whatever. I used all of them. And every single one of them had perks, but every single one of them fell short. And so for me, the style element was really what fell short. I mean, I would come up down the hall from walking in the door, and the first thing I would see in my kitchen was my bottle rack. And I would be like, I just think it's such an eyesore. And no matter what color they are, they don't match your house. So
Yeah,
the
I
Winnie and
know.
Lu products they have more finishes of what you would see in your typical home.
I
Because
love
it's
it.
shiny for you. Your baby's not looking at
Yeah.
it.
I'm also a very aesthetic person, and I like things I really need for my comfort and, sanity sometimes. I like for things to look nice, like the way that I like them. And a lot of times some of the kids stuff just doesn't
Well, and that is
fit.
so true because all the kids stuff, and I think now they're starting to become more muted, but it was like chaos everywhere.
Bright
You look
primary colors.
every
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
and I think that for someone that needs control to not even have control over what I had to use in my home for practicality purposes was also like,
Sure
"What are we
thing.
doing here?" So
Yeah.
yeah, so the first product that we're launching is this Eris drying rack, and it holds up to 12 baby bottles, all the nipples, the lids, and then a full day of pump parts and accessories. And you can dry it all together at once. And then once you're out of that baby stage, you can put 10 wine glasses on it. You can put 5 cutting boards, frying pans. I think I got 11 sports water bottles and coffee travel mugs on it. So
Oh,
really
nice.
versatile, but the whole point of it is I want for you to put your baby bottle on it today and then put their first glass of wine on it tomorrow and be brought back to those memories. The baby phase especially goes by so fast. You wash bottles all day, every day, it feels like. And that
Mhm.
muscle memory of doing that, I hope will eventually bring somebody joy by using the same rack that they used for their child.
I
I
really love
love that.
that. Yeah.
And I
I'm a
think
big
as moms, it's
believer.
like you need those reminders, right? We're constantly
Mhm.
thinking of everything else.
Yeah. I
You do,
love
and the amount of stuff that we purchased for our child, she's gonna be an only child, and so that we're not gonna use again, that we don't really have that many people who are in that baby phase anymore. So the amount that we are giving to Goodwill and to different organizations, which is great, but to have something that you really is sustainable, is gonna be used again, says a lot, and something I wish we had.
Well, and something that has, like, memories attached to it.
Yes.
I always say that, like, one of my favorite things is when you're designing your house or whatever, like, you want objects that you're looking at that, like, have good memories, like, positive associations with them. So to be able to have some of that stuff that you used with your baby to carry through is, like, beautiful. I love it.
Yeah, thank you.
So, Haley, tell us, what is your vision for Winnie and Lou? Where do you kind of see this as you launch your first product? Where do you see this going for moms in the future?
Yeah, so the big girl dreams that we have are really to support moms. I think that I was fortunate to work in the healthcare space and have people who really understood what I was going through, who were very accommodating and helpful. And I want to be able to create those opportunities for other moms. So eventually, I would love to have all of the operations, manufacturing, everything centralized in one spot here in the US and really create a working environment that supports parents so that they can be cross trained, whether they want to do accounts or work on the floor or customer service, whatever it may be. They're able to expand their work experience and resumes, open more doors for themselves. But also, if they have a child that, say, is sick one day, they don't have to make the decision between, am I going to go to work and make a paycheck so that I can keep the lights on? Or am I going to be a parent and be here for my kid? They will have the option to take their kid into a private room and they can work from that room while their kid lays next to them so that they don't have to make that choice. When I was working during COVID managing the OBGYN office, the women that worked for me were the strongest women I've ever encountered. They are single moms who showed up through a pandemic, not knowing what we were exposing ourselves to. And they came in with selfless hearts and took care of all of our patients while their kids really were kind of like, we don't know where to go. And so their sacrifice really inspired me to give back to this degree and hopefully really just change the way that the workforce is structured for parents moving forward. You shouldn't have to choose.
Yeah.
I'm better as a working mom than I am as a stay-at-home mom. I have the utmost respect for stay-at-home moms. They are superheroes. I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm not strong enough. But the Winnie and being able to have the vision of giving back to the community and to people through the bigger vision of Winnie and Lou is ultimately what I think has helped me like find myself again, truly as who I was before I had kids and was kind of a little cloudy.
I love that. What a beautiful vision.
Thank you.
Can't wait to watch it come to fruition. I'm sure it will.
Thank
Yes. And also something that's so helpful. I feel like we should hire more moms because, as you mentioned, working moms work so hard, can multitask, do so many things, and very often are very sacrificing. And to be able to support them in a better way is
Mhm.
really what we need as a country. I mean, I should be on a
Absolutely.
soapbox saying that, but like, this is what we need. Thank you for having that vision and helping future moms have a lot more support than we all did.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the women that came before us really set a great path. And I think that, all I can do is try to keep pushing it forward and be an example to my boys that my work is just as important as dad's work. And I'm very, very fortunate to be married to a man who echoes that to them.
Yeah. That's
That's
wonderful.
wonderful.
Thank you.
So, Haley, kind of a last question. Is there anything you would want moms listening who might be struggling with postpartum depression and anxiety? Anything that you'd want them to know or that you wished you would have known going into your experience?
I wish I would have known that it can happen to anybody. I mean, it's like the classic line, right? I thought I was healthy. I've always kind of had a good been in tune to my feelings and able to talk through things. And it was the first time in my life that I was like, I don't even recognize what's happening or let alone who I am. I wish I would have been more open minded to the fact that it is a possibility that it could happen to me. But also, don't be a martyr. You are already being tasked so many different ways as a new mom. Do not take on the responsibility of trying to heal yourself. It is not what you're supposed to do. We have a village for a reason. Ask for help. Take a break where you can. Be honest with your caretakers. Do not ignore anything because the longer you do that, I feel like the harder it is to get through it. And once you get through it, life is pretty darn great.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for telling your story, for giving so many tips for our moms to hear, and also for the motivation that after so many years, finding yourself again and the ending that life really is great is what we want all moms struggling to know. It really does get better. And like you said, the sooner you get help, the better you can start to feel sooner.
Absolutely. And this hardship will only make you stronger. It really, I thought it was changing me in a very terrible way, and it only made me so much more capable. And I know that if people are true to themselves, that they can get through it too and find the same happiness and growth.
It's something we've heard from so many moms too, is they've been able to turn some of their experience into an amazing strength and add it into what they're doing in their lives currently. So thank you so much for sharing.
Y'all are awesome for creating a platform for people to hear stuff like that. So kudos to you.
Thank you. And thank you again so much.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Thank you again to Haley. Kelly, I just constantly am reminded whenever we hear the mom stories, and even through you and I telling our stories, how so many women have taken their experience with postpartum depression, anxiety, and turned it into, I guess it's a way that they're helping more moms, whether it's through a business or through their therapy practice or whatever, their job or role is in advocacy. I don't know. It's really been wonderful to hear it.
It has. It's really inspiring. I think, both of us going through this and coming out the other side, it does change who you see yourself and who you feel like as a person. And hearing so many moms, just like you said, who are leveraging this to make other moms' lives easier, right?
Yeah.
How can she improve lives for women, create better products, have a vision of supporting working parents? I mean, the
Yeah.
way that and she has taken it and just put that absolute silver lining to a very not fun experience. Also, one that was kind of failed to meet her expectation experience. It's
Yeah.
so empowering.
No, it really is, and just kind of underscores the power of storytelling and sharing, having women share their stories with everyone out there.
It is. And I do really think women can do anything. I think
Mhm.
just putting your mind to it once you've come through something and saying, okay, I can make the world a better place. I really believe we all can. And I
Yeah.
just love watching so many women courageously do it.
I really loved Haley's quote when she said, if I could do that and if I could get through that, I wonder what else I can do. And I just
It's
love
true.
it. I love
Me
it.
too. So if you're struggling, know you're not only going to get through it, but someday you're going to look back and say, that changed me in a good way. Right. I
Yeah.
think all of us, I don't think we'd really, I at least would be like, oh, let's do this again. That was great. But coming through it, it did make me want to help other people in a really positive way. And Ashley, I think you have the same feeling.
Yeah, I do.
So with that, we will leave you guys this week. We're excited to see you next week.
Bye.
Thanks.
If you enjoyed this episode and found it helpful, please be sure to hit subscribe, leave us your feedback, and give us a 5-star review. For even more support, visit us at wethrivepostpartum.com/podcast to sign up for our newsletter and learn more about our community. Remember, you are not alone. With support, you can feel better. Together, let's thrive postpartum.